So today we welcome Sylvia Berguyet. I don't know if I pronounced that properly,
Well,
but
that's fine. In Spanish, don't pronounce it properly either. So it's also a weird name in Spain, so it's fine.
okay. Yeah, I'm in particular happy to have her here today because she's an example of someone who managed to create an edition from scratch without external help, except for a few tutorials and workshop materials e-edition has provided. And she shows how, yeah, actually on your own, without institutional backing and support, you can use open source software to develop something great. So I'm very happy about her being here today, and also quite thrilled to see this example. So then, if I may pass over to you, we'll be excited to hear your presentation.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Wolfgang. And I'm also super excited to be here, especially because I feel like this random person just showing up and saying, hey, I've done this at home in the evenings. Like, I hope you like it. Like, I don't feel that I have the weight coming from all research project at university that I've been working on for years, or qualifications. I don't even have a PhD, so it just feels weird me presenting out of thin air. But I'm super excited and super thankful for the opportunity that I may come here and tell you about the wild learning curve that I've had developing the digital edition. I have prepared a presentation that I hope I can share with you guys. Might be an issue. Okay, that looks good. I hope you can all see it. So yeah, as you can see, my name is Silvia Berigüete Pastor. It's in Spain we have two last names for some reason. In Germany, I used to use the second last name, so I was usually called Frau Pastor, which sounds like a bit artificial, but I found it very, very cute and funny. Otherwise, you may address me just by my first name. It's fine. Like I'm not used to being called by my last name. So yeah, I'll start with the presentation about the digital edition of Wilhelm von Humboldt Schriften. This is what I have planned for today's session. So first of all, I want to start very briefly explaining why I decided to start this digital edition altogether, which you'll see it was kind of like a very exaggerated idea, but I was excited about it. I just got into it without really knowing what I was dragging myself into. Then I will show you a timeline about the different process that I have followed for digital edition. So when I first started, what I have done in the meantime, who I have contacted, what resources I have used. Then I will talk about the workflow of how I manage and develop the digital edition. I've structured that in 6 steps, which doesn't sound like much, but I mean each step is pretty deep in its own. Then later I will talk about the website and the website features, or the different parts of the website. I will share screenshots and explain very broadly how the website is structured and what different features you have, so search features or registers, all that. Then to conclude, I will be speaking about the present or current state of the digital edition, and also some ideas for the future that I would like to develop in the upcoming months or even years, and some random ideas that I think would be cool, but I don't really know what to start with or how to develop those things. I'm not really proficient in IT at the moment. And then really to conclude the presentation, I did not only want to conclude on my digital edition personally, but also briefly introduce the topic of small projects in digital humanities, even by random people like me, and what chances or what opportunities we have to develop our digital editions independently, but also some challenges and some problems that I think would still need to be addressed for small projects in digital humanities to be to have that stand and that the recognition that bigger projects do have. Okay, I'm a bit nervous, I'm noticing. So I'll be starting with the genesis of the project and the timeline. So when I was studying my bachelor's, I was still majoring in philosophy at the time. I was really excited about Wilhelm von Humboldt. He's a German author, for the ones in the audience who might not be very familiar with him. He was a very proficient author. He wrote topics in philosophy, in linguistics, in history, in politics. He was the inventor, essentially, of the German education system that is still being used today. He also founded the University of Berlin, so the Humboldt University. And he was also a person who was interconnected with the intellectual circles in Europe all the time because he traveled so much and he was proficient in so many languages. So he was not only around the intellectual circles in Germany, so you see a picture in the background with Goethe and Schiller, but also with people in Paris or Madame de Staël, also with people in Spain, with people in Austria, in England. So he really traveled to and from in Europe. And I think he's like a very exciting person to dive into. Also, if you are not directly interested in Humboldt, but just in the intellectual circles around the late 18th century and early 19th century. And so I was really frustrated when I took a seminar course at university about Humboldt, and there was very minimal literature, well, original literature on the internet by Humboldt. Like, I mean, I would search for the text that I was supposed to read in class and be like, okay, this text, PDF, Google, and then I would find nothing. And I was pretty puzzled. I was thinking, hey, like, imagine if I was taking a course on Kant or Hegel or Schelling, and I wouldn't find the texts online. It just would feel weird to me. So then I tried to dive a bit deeper about why the online presence of Humboldt's manuscripts was so little. And then I discovered that the reason for this was that the original manuscripts of Wilhelm von Humboldt were, in the biggest part, destroyed during the Second World War. So like very few manuscripts have remained in like from some very specific areas of his works, and all the rest is essentially destroyed. So that means that no library or no university has felt compelled to conserve this text because, well, how can something that has already been destroyed be preserved? And nonetheless, I was kind of like feeling very conflicted because I was thinking, if these texts have already been lost once, the danger that these texts will be lost forever is somehow there. And also, if the text cannot be found online, that also means that the author is less accessible to people anywhere from the world. Also for students, like they need to buy the actual physical books, and they cannot access them just on the internet. So I thought that was like really weird for an author that has the weight and importance that Humboldt has, at least in the German-speaking world. But I think it's a loss for Europe altogether, again, because Humboldt was super connected to other European countries and cultures as well. So I mean, that was around October last year when I was graduating from my master's degree, and I had a bit more free time, and I was thinking, wow, how cool would that be if there would be a website with the manuscripts of Humboldt, or with, well, I mean, the works of Humboldt. So I began kind of like fantasizing about the idea and thinking, but how would that look like? So at first I was thinking maybe I could build like a very simple website with links and just have a list of all the texts. And so the people visiting the website would click on the text and just download raw PDF file, sort of. And for that, I would do OCR on already scanned copies that you might find in Internet Archive. I was thinking, well, maybe that would already suffice. But then I remember that I had a course at university, an introduction to digital humanities, that I should have totally paid more attention to. But I kind of still remember the main ideas, which were, it's important to think about the format of the text when you're trying to preserve them. And also, if you're just doing a plain OCR and transforming that into a PDF, I mean, it's not as stable, and it does not have the features that a more advanced digital edition could have. So, for example, search options or filters, if you want to know how many times Humboldt quotes Goethe, for example, which could be interesting. You cannot really do that if you just have raw PDF files with simple OCRs. So I was thinking, okay, maybe this XML thing, maybe it is important. Maybe I should go back to the materials that were used in the course Introduction to Digital Humanities and really get this started. And it's probably a bit ambitious of me, but you know, I had just freshly graduated from my master's. I was essentially unemployed. And I was thinking, well, maybe now it's the time to get this started. And I don't really know where this is going to take me, but at least it gives me a sense of purpose and a project that I can be excited about. So first, I started researching how I could do the website display of the edition, and not so much with the actual XML files. But I mean, I was sure about how the XML files would roughly go because I had taken this course at university, so I was already familiar with the TI initiative and TI encoding. So I kind of like left that aside, and I was thinking, okay, but once I have that, how am I going to turn that into a website? Because I am not proficient in informatics. I mean, I know myself around PowerPoints and Word documents. Now AI is starting to be a thing, so I kind of roughly know how to deal with those, but I don't know how to program a website. And I don't really know how that would look like. So first I started researching for applications that would help me go faster in this process. And I first got to know about Idearium, which is another application that is used in other research projects by other universities. And so I got a glimpse into that, and I tried experimenting a bit with it, but I was frustrated because there were not so many materials that I could lean on, or so many YouTube tutorials or blog posts explaining how the platform works. I also thought that the documentation that was available for Idearium was not as accessible for me, or at least I did not have the knowledge of digital editions and IT that I might have now to understand them at that point. And so I was a bit frustrated. And I kept researching, and then I saw that there was another application, namely TI Publisher, that people were saying that it was super accessible, and you can start slow and then escalate as the project grows, and that you don't have to possess this amazing IT knowledge, that you can just start from scratch and see where it goes. And there were this series of YouTube tutorials made by Wolfgang Mayer that I have to be super thankful about, that were filmed during lockdown, apparently. And I watched those videos way too many times, and I started experimenting with my application. I still remember that I had so many issues with it, and like the first time I tried, it didn't work out, so I then had to go back to the video and really imitate every single step, making sure that I was not omitting anything, or like checking the files, or maybe I didn't upload this or that. So I mean, it was a bit frustrating at first, but quickly it kind of grew me, and I was getting excited by the project and seeing how it was slowly escalating. Because at first, maybe I could only change the color of the titles, but then I could change the size, and then I could add footnotes, so that I could add person tags, and so you could really see the evolution of the project and the website. And even if it was a bit frustrating sometimes, and I was just talking with ChatGPT and being like, hey, why is this not working? And ChatGPT totally having no idea what it was not working. So even though it was a bit frustrating sometimes, I really have to admit, I just tried to be resilient and be patient about it and hope that it would get better eventually. And it did get better eventually. So I mean, this was around late autumn, early winter last year. And then when 2025 arrived, I really got into it. I really got a grasp. Oh, I have a question already.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll go back to the presentation. In 2025, I really started going steady with the edition. I started working intensively on the XML files for the edition. So not only the website display, but also the actual documents. I mean, that needed to be done at some point. But once I already had the layout, I had the feeling that once I uploaded the XML file, I could automatically see the result. And if there was any issues, I would see them automatically on the display and be like, oh, maybe I haven't done the XML properly, because otherwise this will look this other way. So you could really see the evolution of the process as it was going. And then eventually in around May, so early May 2025, I managed to launch the first website, which was also another huge challenge, because I mean, I had the local application on my computer, but then the challenge came, okay, how do I make this into an actual website? I not only need a domain, but I also need a hosting service. I need a license. I need this and that. And I was like, okay, then I buy the hosting, but I have the hosting, but how do I put this thing that I have on my computer onto there, and that alone took maybe like 2 weeks. So you see that the process was a bit slow, but also because I was not very proficient and I was, just being patient about it. So I kept debugging and I kept solving issues. And once I thought that the platform was stable and the first volume of Humboldt's work were already published. So once I got to that point, I decided to contact Ediciones because I was thinking, I don't want to contact this huge organization, or at least that is how I saw Ediciones at the time. I don't want to contact them and being like, oh, I have like one text digitized and this is the website. That it's not dynamic because I don't know how to program, but yeah, hello. I felt that was kind of odd, so I just waited to this point. And once I had a stable, it was more like a static website at the time. So, but once I had that, I contacted Ediciones directly and was like, hey, I exist. I have this digital edition going on. It's an independent project. I'm not sure if you care, but could you maybe index it in your website? And then I got a reply by Andreas Krenze, who was like, oh, this is actually exciting. Like, could you tell me more about it? And I was like, oh, so you care about the project. This is weird to me. But I was excited that somebody was excited because this had been my solo project all the time. Like nobody had really paid the project that attention or valued the project as being stable and being scientific and being precise. Like I was not expecting to get any recognition for this at all. And then when the Ediciones was like, no, we really are on board. Please tell us more about it. Please come to the community meeting and tell us how you worked yourself through. Like that was really a breaking point for me because it really changed the view that I had on the website, and it was no longer an evening project, but it was now a project on its own. It was a small project in the digital humanities, but it was still a project worth on its own. And so from there, Andreas Krenze has essentially become my unofficial or maybe official mentor, I have to say. I'm really thankful for him. And we've had meetings every couple of weeks where we would sit down and discuss the development of the website. And then I would sit and be like, hey, Andreas, I have this issue with the website. What do you think? How can I solve it? And he was like, oh, maybe you can start here. Maybe you can write this with the person who knows more about this than I do. Maybe you can look into the documentation. Probably you should also add these and these features because they are important to have in any digital edition. And I'm noticing that you don't have this. Or maybe you want to improve your workflow by using these tools instead of these other tools. So I got like a lot of input, and Andreas was like, no, but it's really not that big of a thing. But at the time, it was really revealing to me because I did not know that I had these tools or that I had to undergo these processes. So it was really helpful to have him on board. And from there, you can really see the website has immensely grown. Now I have like a dynamic website with registers, with search filters. So with many features that I did not have when I first launched the website in May because I just didn't know how to do that. And so currently we are together looking for funding opportunities and partners that want to support the project in other ways that doesn't have to be necessarily funding, because that's something that I'm going to talk about towards the end of the presentation, that it's difficult for small projects in digital humanities to have funding and have financial support. And for me, this means that the digital edition that I'm working on is essentially 100% self-financed. I don't have any donations, I don't have any funding. I just pay for my pocket and also with my time when I'm developing the website. Okay, well, I'm talking a lot about the timeline, so let's go directly to the workflow. So what do I do to develop the digital edition altogether? So the first step is taking the original source. Again, because I do not have, nobody has the original manuscripts of Humboldt, I decided to choose a Leitzmann edition, which is like the oldest printed, edited edition of Humboldt's work. So you not only have the original text by Humboldt, but also the original annotations and commentaries of Leitzmann. This edition is from the early, you see the dates there, so from the early 20th century, and it's now copyright free because Leitzmann passed away over some 76 years ago or something. So that means the Leitzmann's work as well is royalty free, not only Humboldt. So that also means that I can integrate them both in my digital edition. So once I have the original source, which is available for free in Internet Archive, you just look for Humboldt's volumes and you find them all there. So they're already scanned for me. I don't have to do that tedious process. I'm thankful for that. So I download them in JPG or PDF. And then I scan those texts with OCR with Transcribus, which is a more reliable tool than any other than Google might perhaps offer, or Internet Archive as well offers OCR, but it's not very reliable. So I do it with Transcribus. I take the text, I take the notes, I correct, especially numbers tend to be tricky, or sometimes like S or Fs tend to be switched in German for some reason. So I go through the whole thing, or maybe not necessarily like going super slowly, but especially around the corners. Or sometimes when I review it afterwards, I realize, oh, maybe this S or F. But so I try to make it as quick as possible because it can get very tedious, I have to admit. And once I have the plain OCR, I then go forward with the TI codification. So I take my tool, this Oxygen XML, and I organize the text according to different tags. I also use the person tags, the dates. Well, I mean, I do that mostly in the annotation, but especially, I pay attention to footnotes. I also include some contextual notes that are originally made by Leitzmann, but that I wanted to include in the edition. And so I put that all together in the TI format, which also takes a long time. I mean, the length of the text really determines the amount of work that I have to put into. Humboldt's writings are mostly short works, like many short works, but some works can be a bit larger. So I mean, I have texts that are maybe like 10 pages and text that can get up to 200. So the amount of work that goes for every text is really variable. Also for the next step, which is the annotation and the developing of the registers, the amount of work that I put for each text can be very variable. Like in some texts, I get like a lot of references, and in some other texts, I don't get so many references. So it can go faster even if the text is a bit longer. So for the annotation, I used to do this all by hand and really referencing each person and place internally within the text. So in the TI header, I will include the information for each person. This was extremely tedious, and I mean, I made this quicker with ChatGPT, of course. But at some point, Andreas was like, hey, Sylvia, why don't you do this with the TI annotation tool? I was like, that's probably a good idea. So I got into it, and once I transformed all the tags with the annotation tool of TI Publisher, I was able to have a register list. And once I had that register, I could then develop a register feature on the website. So now I not only had like more stable annotations that would not only rely on the internal structure of the text, but that could also be searched and used by the website users if you want to see, how many times Goethe is quoted. So that really leveled up the edition, and thank you, Andreas, for that. And then finally, I upload the XML document that I have to the website, and I see how that looks like. I see also if the website can be expanded. So for example, with the registers, that is a very good example that a new feature enabled a new part of the website to be developed. So maybe I need to develop a new template, or I need to update an app inside the application, or I need to change some part of the coding. So sometimes this can be really tedious, and I do have some problems. I will go into that later. But it usually works rather well, especially for simple texts. And once I have that, and I have a rather stable website, and I have some number of texts that have been digitized, I try to go for the long-term archiving, which was also an input idea from Andreas, who was like, yeah, if you really want to go open science, you have to publish all the data and files of your application on GitHub, and also to Zenodo, so that you also have a DOI number, and you have more security and control over your edition. So I've done a few versions already, and the current version has also been updated already. So I mean, now you have the archives and files on GitHub that are being used for the website right now. So now that I've talked about the process, the learning curve, and all the difficulties that I've experienced, I can go into the website. So what it looks like today. I currently have advanced search and filters, registers. I have I would say, beautiful text display. I have a dynamic table of contents, which I'm very proud of because that took a lot of time and a lot of support by ChatGPT. But I mean, I'm pretty satisfied, even though it could be it could get a bit smoother, but I like it. And I have the download options. I currently have, of course, XML and EPUB do seem to be working. I'm having issues with the print CSS. I would like the PDF version also to work. For some reason it doesn't work. I don't know why. I hope I'll figure it out anytime soon, or that I can get your support to get that through. So this is how the homepage looks like. So as you can see, I drew a lot of inspiration and copy pasting from the Van Gogh edition. So I thought the display was very beautiful, and I liked the idea of having the whole website integrated inside the TI application, or I mean my own application, instead of having to program the homepage with a different server or hosting or some platform of the sort. But everything is integrated. So this is the homepage. You have the search option to the left, Suche, and the text option to the right. So I mean, I have both this dynamic display, the search website, and also the more traditional index for people that might be looking for a particular text and don't want to delve into the search options. So this is how the search page looks like currently. To the left, I have the filters. I currently have the type or the genre of the text, the language used in the text, the place where the work was written, or the topics. And I also have a timetable that took ages to program for some reason. There was an issue with the overall HTML structure. And this is roughly what it looks like. I would also like to sort by date, maybe to the left. I'm not really getting how I can do that. So it just sorts by title, and yeah, I'm satisfied nonetheless. Then I have the traditional index that just follows the index seen in Leitzmann's physical works. So you have the different volumes and the texts that have been digitized. I mean, I have included also the works that I have not yet digitized, also for people to know like the size of Humboldt's works and like how much there is to be done and how little I have achieved. Even though, I mean, to me, it feels that I have achieved a lot, but there is a lot to be done when it comes to Humboldt. Like, he was a very prolific author. So this is the register. I have two registers at the moment. I have one for people and one for places. I could technically also do one for organizations. I don't have as many so far, but I mean, it could be interested to expand onto that later. It could technically be done. So you have the list of people that have been referenced, and then I have a page where you get information about the person, the birthplace and date, and dates, short description, and then I also have a list of the texts where this person is quoted, and also how many times. So that, for instance, in the case of Goethe, you have a text über Goethes Hermann und Dorothea, where Goethe is quoted many times, which makes sense because Humboldt is discussing a work written by Goethe. But maybe in other texts, you don't necessarily expect him to be quoted or so many times. So I think that's also interesting to have a quick insight. How many times is this person quoted? This is the text layout that I have gone for. I have two view options, one for the plain text or for the full text, and another for the context annotations by Leitzmann. So those are made by the editor, not by Humboldt himself. And I have tried various display options, and I was not really satisfied with any of them. I mean, I could go with navigation buttons and maybe structure that in div elements. So for each chapter, for example, you have to use the navigation buttons, and it works very well for some texts. But there's some other texts when you have like very short paragraphs that are each individual chapters that would also be rendered like that. So you really have to push the display button like every 4 or 5 lines, which I don't think it's really easy to handle, like really practical. So I mean, I have tried again like different versions. Currently, I just have all the text right there. I think it's also useful if you want to like search things quickly, or if you're like looking for a quote. But I accept other ideas that you think might be more visually attractive or more handy. I mean, at the moment, the text is easy to be consulted, but maybe not so comfortable to be read. And so I'm not sure if I want the text to be read or the text to be just consulted and just downloaded. So I mean, at the time, this is the solution that I have, and I'm satisfied with it. And then to the left, you have a dynamic table of contents. Again, this took ages to program. And so what this does is that you have all the text that I have digitized, not any others. And then you can go through the text and search for the page numbers. So this is useful, for example, if you have a quote by Humboldt and you want to consult that quote and jump directly to there and see like, oh, I have like page number, whatever. So you click and then you go straight to that. So that's pretty cool, actually. And I think that for the longer text, it might look a bit overwhelming because you have like all the page numbers, and maybe I could use, like sub chapters or the titles of the different sections. But yeah, that was a bit harder to program. So again, I just left it there and be like, okay, that's a future me problem. And then also for the name tags, you see that I have different colors. So for the people's names, I have orange. For the place names, I have green. And what I also do is that instead of just annotating Tegel and be like, okay, I get the reference number, that's it. I try to adapt the description of the place or of the person so that it's interesting for, the Humboldt project. So for example, with Tegel, I would not only say, oh, this is a region in Germany, but also say this is the place where Wilhelm von Humboldt was born. So I mean, that can take a bit more of my time, but I think it's really worth it to click on the elements and be like, also for Berlin, I not only have like, oh, Berlin is a German city, but it's a German city where Humboldt was socialized with the intellectual circles around that time, with Moses Mendelssohn. And so, I mean, you get like relevant information concerning Humboldt. All right, so this is more or less what my website looks now. And now I'm going to talk very briefly where I'm at and some ideas that I have for the future. So here you visually see like how little or how much I've gone through. I mean, I currently have the first volume and almost all the second one. I mean, I have the text digitized, but not yet annotated. And so that means that I roughly have 15% of what the whole project could be. And this does not include all the texts written by Humboldt. These are just the texts that were edited by Leitzmann. I mean, you have other texts, for example, the political text that I have not included in the project. I think this is already overachieving enough. And again, I'm not really in a hurry, so like I don't mind if the project takes years. I mean, this is going to be my part-time thing. I'm conscious of it, and I just go little by little, and be like, okay, I try not to be overwhelmed by the amount of text that could be there to be digitized. And then some ideas for the future. Again, I would like the print CSS option to work, hopefully sooner than later. Again, I'm looking for partners in crime for that. And some ideas that could be cool to include in the website are, of course, network visualizations. I mean, you could have like different bubbles with the pictures of different people, or maybe like a map of Europe, because Humboldt also traveled a lot. So maybe you can have a map with, okay, so in Paris, this text was written, or maybe with a timetable. Also, first he went to Paris, and then he went to England, or then he went to Spain, or whatever. I mean, some kind of visual thing, I think, could fit very well into the website. I was also thinking for the registers to include like a gender filtered person. I think, for example, for people who are doing research in gender studies or who are interested especially in female or non-masculine voices in the 18th or 19th century might benefit for something like this. I mean, I would include three genders, so male, female, and unknown. Or, I mean, we could formulate that somehow differently, but that you could, for instance, click on just the females that Humboldt quotes, and I think that would be like visually very, very interesting. Also, another dream, or I mean, another possibility for the website would be including translations of the texts, but this is very tricky. I mean, not only because of copyright issues that I think that really goes beyond me, but also because very little has been actually translated into other European languages, which is incredibly weird. Like, I think the language that has been, or that has translated most works by Humboldt is actually Spanish, because Humboldt was the very first person to study the Basque language in Spain. So, I mean, he's very well known for his linguistic studies because of that. But if you look for English translations, French translations, there's really not so much available. So, I mean, that could be cool to have, but maybe, again, it goes beyond me. So yeah, now to conclude, I have talked a lot about my own learning journey, my own digital edition, how I have struggled and how I have had fun with it, sort of, even if again it was very exhausting at times. But I really want to open up the discussion and not only debate my own digital edition and Humboldt and stuff, but also discussing how can small editions or how can small digital humanities projects gain the place and the importance that they might, well, they should get. So I mean, I have divided the slide in two parts. So once it's like the chances or like the positive aspects of small digital editions, and other challenges. So I mean, there are some good things or some benefits of doing a small project in the digital humanities. So first, you have an open source ecosystem. So I mean, you have open source applications like TIA Publisher. Also, some tools are, if not free, they have like very small licenses. So Transcribers, for example, is free. You have documentation, you have the amazing YouTube tutorials by Wolfgang Meyer out there, or maybe blog posts that also explain how they have got around certain tools or applications. I mean, that's cool to have. You also have community mentoring. So, for example, Editiones is very good at that. That Editiones has welcomed me as a random person and has provided me with the invaluable support of Andreas Krenzle. And he has become sort of my mentor, that I talk to him about the website and what can be done. And it's just really satisfying to just receive some piece of feedback or just learning about information or standards that you might be fulfilling at the moment. Also, small digital editions are more flexible. So, I mean, you have this opportunity of starting small and then build as you go. So if the project grows bigger, the website can also grow bigger. And if it stays small, it can stay small. Like, you sort of decide. You don't have to have everything figured out when you start. You can just start small. And then if you realize, maybe a register would be fine, how do I do that? Then you add the register and then you update the website. Like, that's really not that big of a deal. Whereas perhaps in bigger editions, you really have to have the full package before you put it online. So I mean, that really gives a lot of room for experimenting and being creative and thinking like, oh, this would be cool, and just implement it. You don't have to consult with the whole research team or maybe the funders, or like, you just think, oh, this would be cool, let's try it. And then you try it and then you put it out there. But small digital editions certainly have big challenges ahead of them. I would say the biggest one is the funding aspect, because currently my digital edition is self-financed, and the costs that I have to cover are not that big. I do pay for the hosting and the domain, and really not much else. I mean, I paid for an Oxygen XML license, but again, that's not as much. I mean, the hosting costs would be around maybe 60 euros a year, which isn't much if you compare that to Netflix subscription. But I mean, I also pay with the time that I'm investing on the website. And I mean, I get that I shouldn't be paid as much as somebody who is proficient, because I also take longer in the process because I'm not so good at IT. I mean, I have learned a lot in the meantime, but I'm not very productive in that sense. So I might need a lot of time to get things done. So I mean, I also get that. And also the fact that I'm not supported by an academic institution means that there is no guarantee for the academic and scientific standards that I'm following. I mean, I would like to think that I'm complying with academic standards as good as I can, but somebody who consults the website online doesn't necessarily know that, because there's not a logo of a university. Like, there's not much trust in an independent digital edition, which I also get. I mean, anyone could do this. I mean, I'm not sure who would have interest in doing this, with a bad thing in mind, but still, you do not get that recognition that bigger editions get. And that does not mean that small projects are less worthy or less academic or less precise. I mean, they can be as well as those. but there's just no guarantee, and I'm not sure how we could change that. So I mean that also the aspect with the funding is that I currently self-host my website. But if anything should happen to me, who is going to curate that website? Who is going to pay for the hosting? And so how will my website look like in 10 years, in 20 years, or after I'm no longer in this world? So there's also questions that really keep me thinking, like, how are we going to do this? But again, I do not really have a good solution at the time that is affordable and reasonable for me. And again, when it comes to the technical IT skills and all, I have to admit, again, I was pretty null when it comes to informatics, IT, all the things, programming. I was really scared of it. And I took that course in university, but I really should have paid more attention. So I was like really overwhelmed. I just had a dream and ambition, and I was, excited about the project. And I really benefited from those YouTube tutorials, especially. But that's pretty much it. And there are not so many easy, accessible tutorials for people who are beginning and starting in this field. And I feel that most documentation, even though, yeah, it's out there and it's open and you can check it, it's probably written in a way that's not comprehensible for people in doing smaller projects or people who are starting from home. So maybe that is something that could be improved upon also by just sharing these experiences and saying, hey, we exist and this is possible, and just be resilient, it'll get better. And maybe just sharing these experiences is also positive for the overall public, so that they know you can just start if you have a dream and ambition and time and are open to it, just do it. I think that really sums up the do-it-yourself spirit of digital humanities, doesn't it? And with this, I think we are done. I have spoken way longer than I was planning on, but Southern Europeans tend to expand a little bit on speaking, or at least I do. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Again, I have said a lot of things, but I really want to see how you guys see the project, how you think about small initiatives in the digital humanities. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we can really discuss together.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this great presentation. I can really see that, well, you touched a few areas where you actually need quite some technical skills. So I'm quite excited you made it. So for example, for doing this table of contents, you certainly had to touch some XQuery code in the background. And yeah, so this is really not just say a hobbyist project, but you're already touching say expert areas with what you did. So I'm really excited that you managed to do it. But yeah, I would have some questions myself, but maybe I first ask around if anyone else would like to start with a question. No. Okay. Yes, there has been one hands up.
That was me. I really enjoyed your talk, and I admire your work. But at the same time, I have been working also on the Wilhelm von Humboldt edition project of the linguistic edition. So in some, yeah, it is. I have more questions on the why did you choose Leitzmann? Okay, because it's the most available edition, but I must say that there are much more manuscripts than you think, because we checked everything. So maybe we could get in contact because of that. And with regard to the linguistic texts that are in the Leitzmann edition, we also plan, or some of the texts are already edited in the Wilhelm von Humboldt edition project, which is not online, unfortunately. And I must say I have very many transcriptions already. So we have from the project, I don't know if we can help you with this, if it is allowed. If somebody, or I can give some text to you so that you can, because we have the transcriptions, but I think we should get into contact about this. I can't offer funding or something, but I can't give you maybe some suggestions on that, on the content. And Wilhelm von Humboldt was not born in Tegel. He was born in Potsdam.
Oh yeah,
So
you're right
for
about
the
that.
comment.
It's like the family, well, the family.
Yeah, but he
residence.
was not born in
Yeah.
Potsdam. He was born in Potsdam, not in Tegel. He died in Tegel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
edit that. But again, thank you so much for your input, and I would totally
But
be
I will
honored to get in
contact you and
contact with you.
tell you. I have also a list with the English translations, and I can also give you all the PDFs I have, if you
that would
like
be
to have
amazing,
that.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you made, that maybe there's more than I have the feeling that there is, but also because it's not available, it's not open. That was kind of like the issue that I had to begin with, and be like, oh, this should be open. Why is it not open?
And there are, if you, I don't know how the copyright rules are for older translations. For example, there are also many translations into Italian and French from the 1970s and 80s, and yeah, we can, but I will contact you and we can talk about that then.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
And the technical side, I'm not very fit in that kind, no, because we did a traditional edition when we started in 2004, because the German Research Council, we were funded by the German Research Council, and they wanted us to produce many volumes, but no online edition. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, how much the environment has changed. That is amazing.
Yeah. But we did all the transcription of all manuscripts and Leitman texts that haven't been published yet. And I don't know how this will continue, because we also have no funding any longer. And so, but we have, so maybe I can give you some of the texts so that you don't have to pass them through OCR, because we have the transcriptions and they are also controlled. So I will get in touch with you.
Yeah, wow, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I see that also bigger research initiatives are struggling with funding, so maybe that's not only a problem for small editions, but
funding
for all editions.
is always limited. And then if you ask for money for example, DFG, then you say, oh, we produce 1 volume each year, but then life is different. And you don't produce 1 volume a year, but less. So, and then you run out of funding and cannot finish your edition project.
Yeah, I think that's already really cool that you got into contact this way. So I guess that will result in some interesting conversations. Are there any other questions up? No, then just to get back to or bring the discussion in the direction you mentioned. In which way do you think we as e-editioners could make it easier for people like you to get started? So you mentioned like simpler tutorials, yeah. So could you explain a bit more what you would imagine and where the pain points were? Because I'm really interested to see how we can improve things and provide more help.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. So I mean, one thing that I struggle with, it sounds very stupid, but it might be important, is that when I first access the Ediciones website, when you get inside, you have like I think 3 different options to consult depending on your profile. So you have Ediciones for researchers, Ediciones for institutions, and I think there's another category. But then I was a bit puzzled, because I was thinking, I'm not an institution, but I'm not a researcher either. So where do I fit in these categories? And I think I would have liked some kind of broader category for, for developers is the other one, which is more like IT proficient. As I was thinking, maybe like another tag, or maybe changing that and saying, oh, for because for independent developers sounds weird, so I'm not really sure what category it would be, but maybe for beginners would be fine to have. So something that you say like, oh, maybe I don't really know what this is. I don't really know what Editiones can do. I don't know what tools I have. So I mean, it would be cool to have inside the Editiones website some inside website for beginners when you can maybe put all the beginner tools together. So you can have the tutorials that you already have. And I also found some amazing blog posts that are just written by, I don't know who has written them, just random people on the internet who are sharing their experiences and how they have developed their websites. So I think it would also be cool to link them together and just have like a spreadsheet. Like this is everything that you can use if you're just starting in this world of digital editions and you don't have as much IT knowledge. Because for instance, documentations are cool, but they are very long and difficult to understand if you're not proficient in all these technical aspects. So maybe just like one integrated website inside Editiones for beginners would be cool. Also, I really struggled a lot from, again, this step between developing the local application on my computer and uploading that to the internet. That was wild. That I had to understand, okay, what is a hosting service or what is a domain? I have to get the domain and hosting separately, like it's not integrated, and then I buy the hosting, and then I have, a dashboard that I didn't really understand, and how do I upload my XAR file in this? So that was really wild, and I had to consult a lot of various videos that were not really about digital editions or about Exist or about the ones that I really needed. And like once I got to install Exist, then it was super simple because it was exactly the same display that I had on my computer. But to get to that was wild, and I didn't really find a lot of insightful videos that were really applied to the Exist environment. So I mean, that is something that I would have liked to have, but I think that's difficult also to show in a tutorial. But maybe some information on like, what do you need? So I would need a hosting service, I would need a domain, I would need this, and that, and then install Exist in the hosting, and I don't know, maybe some kind of guidelines, even if roughly would have been helpful.
Okay. Yes, I see. Yeah, I completely understand that this is a difficult part because so it's not even for developers. That's more administrator knowledge. Yeah, so you have to know about proxies and domains and name service and this kind of stuff. So that's really tough if you have to do it yourself. I mean, I always struggle with it if I have to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a completely different area of knowledge than developing the website. Yeah? But I like the idea of putting up something for beginners, which actually collects useful materials. And maybe you would be interested to help with that. Because you're probably already then bookmarked a few things. So if you would share those, that would be great, and would already give
absolutely. I mean, that would help a lot of people, I think. I mean, I'm not sure how many people actually do this in the free time as I have. Like, I would like to believe that more than we actually think, because not always do these projects go online. Or maybe it's a lot of students are now having like courses on digital humanities, and they might be interested in developing these applications, even if, for example, it doesn't go online or the university takes care of the hosting. But maybe like for just students or like as myself who have graduated and maybe are no longer working or studying at the university, but would still like to experiment with these things. So I would like to think that there's more out there than we think. Just because it doesn't go online does not mean it doesn't exist. So that would be a great idea, actually, to make these materials more accessible in one place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we on our website, it's even not that difficult to update things. So you could even join us there and help a bit with maintaining that website. We do have. We do have those different working groups also in Editiones, and maybe it would make most sense to channel this in one of those. So we have for community and communication would maybe be the one room where we could start discussing that. Yeah, anyway, so I think that would be a great start. But are there any other questions, ideas? Andreas has raised his hand.
Yeah, just a little thing. Maybe it would be good to use an authority file like the GND for your registers, so that the edition can be connected with others. I didn't see it at the moment, but we can
Yeah,
have
I
a
do
look
have
at
a local.
on
It's in the edition. I mean, I do have it in the resources, like in the
I
folder. I'm
didn't
not
see
sure if
it,
you're
sorry.
looking at the GitHub documentation. Like if you have the GitHub at hand, it's inside the. I think it's resources folder, and then I have script. I think it's registers. It's
Sorry,
called.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it works. Like I worked a long time on that, but it should be there. I did start manually, as I've said, but at some point you mentioned, maybe you should have a local register, and I do
Yeah,
have it
but
external now.
on the website there's no link to an authority file.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's it.
And then the next step would be that we have like an API for other editions to get them. But
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's
absolutely
the thing.
not important for now, I think.
Yeah, that's another issue that I sometimes have. That, like, for example, Andreas, that you mentioned, oh, you should have like a register, and then I would be standing there and be like, yeah, I should absolutely have a register, and then go back home and be like, what is a register? Like, what even is that? What are you talking about? Or like that you may use some terms or some vocabulary that I might not really understand, or understand different things about those terms. So maybe also like I don't know, like some sort of, I mean, not dictionary, but some sort of glossary with terms would also be fun to have in a future website for beginners. Some kind of like basic vocabulary. What is a register? What is synodo? So like some quick infos that anyone doing a digital edition should know, or something of the sort.
Yeah. Yes, I can see that actually your so if you look at Goethe, there is a GND ID. It's just not listed. So what Andreas meant was that you would have a link leading you to the GND entry on the GND page.
Yeah, but that could be added quickly.
Well, yeah, I also had a quick look at the PDF output, and it seems that the underlying library, which is being used for displaying it in the browser, has some issue, which from the console output I cannot identify, but it seems to be in this area because the output itself looks good. So theoretically, it should be possible to display, but yeah, I mean, this library also is it's an open source library and not that comprehensive, so it might stumble across something. So we will have to figure out what that is, but certainly it can be fixed, so it's not a fundamental issue in output. Yeah, so we also have the 1 hour full, I just noticed.
Yeah, that was very intense, I have to say. So I'm also seeing on the comments like a lot of positive feedback. Again, thank you everyone so much for it. Like it was an honor just being here today with you and sharing my project and just discussing all those issues that I've had, and feel that it is a valuable learning curve that I have, and it's also important to share these experiences and not only the brick projects where everything works. And it's also fine just to show yourself honest and be like, oh, this didn't work, this would be fine, but I don't know how to do it, or maybe I need some help with this. Like I really think that we can all benefit from just being honest and transparent and be like, can you help?
Okay, yeah, I can see that you are on our Slack under your name. So
yeah,
I'll later invite you to the one room which we set up for actually discussing website and this kind of stuff. So then we could maybe continue there about your idea of creating this page for beginners. Yeah, other than that, if there are no other questions at the moment, I would say thank you very much for that great presentation. And well, we will see each other next time for the next community talk for December. Nothing has been set in stone yet. But we were discussing about having something also early December. But we will come back to that. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, and in particular Sylvia for the presentation. And yeah, see you around.